Welcome back to the Road to 1 Million podcast. Today I'm with Mike Norng, founder of AFS, Auto Film Specialist in Houston, Texas, and co-founder of Auto Film Mastery and owner of Make More Money. If you guys have been around in the detailing or film industry for a while, you probably know who Mike Norng is. It was an honor to have him on this podcast. At the beginning of the episode, Mike talks about how he got started and scaling his business to what it has become today. And then I also start to get into some questions in the later part of the episode about marketing and advertising, hiring a customer service advisor or sales guy, things like that. I think you guys will enjoy this one. I know I sure did. Huge thanks to Mike for sparing his time and coming on. Don't forget you can use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, today I'm with Mike Norng. Mike, thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on here, man, and super excited to talk with you a little bit more about your journey. There's so much that we could talk about today, but I kind of wanted to focus on at least start on AFS. Can you tell me kind of how that came about? I know we were talking before we started recording about you were kind of all over the place there for a while, moving to Chicago and
Yeah.
Las Vegas and Orange County.
Yeah.
So what the heck? Why did you decide to settle in Houston, and how did you get started with AFS?
I've been involved in the automotive, you could say, industry since a little kid. Just washing car, putting car stereo. I don't know it, but around like 93, 94, we're doing like all the way to 96. We're doing like CD changer. CD player inside cars. And so I always been involved in cars and just doing all kind of stuff. So in 2005, I was looking in Craigslist, and somebody was selling a car wash for like $100,000. And I was like, man, you know what? I want to own a car wash. So I negotiated down to like 75,000, and it was me and my partner. So we put 30 something thousand, like we save up. And when we owned that car wash, it was fun. We didn't kind of know we own a business just like everybody else that get into a business. They're doing it because they have passion for it. But it like hit us like we own a business, and what do we do when it rain? It hardly snow here, but when the weather is not great, and in Houston it could rain 7 days straight, and we just didn't know how to like make money. Like those days we just sat around or just go home. So we decided to add like a bunch of different services, rock chip repair, paint chip repair, just windshield repair, just a bunch of like little stuff, and we just kept on adding it.
Mm.
And so we just kept on doing it, we just kept on working. Lucky me and my partner was working, so we were like the main two payroll. We didn't have like a staff. We probably had like two guys with us too. And I got into paint protection film in 2006. I bought a plotter. At that time, I think it was the dumbest thing for me to ever do because there was no instruction how to be successful at it, how to even do it. I think YouTube barely came around. There was no Instagram, no Facebook at the time. And and so we took on paint protection film, and it was just like really unsuccessful. It took a lot of our money because we bought a plotter and everything else. And then we was subbing out tint at that time, and tint was just going, and like we were doing anywhere from 3 to 6 ppf a month, and I was the only one doing it. And when that job come, I'll like sit back in the garage and start doing it, and it was just like unsuccessful. But I just stuck with stuff, and I always stuck with it. And window tint actually pick off. If you look at one of my location, my first car wash detailing center, they built the biggest Audi dealership right behind me in the United States. Well, now it's not the biggest, but LA beat it. But at that time, it was the biggest. And we got I mean, I always say we get lucky, but the harder I work, the luckier I get. But this, they built the biggest Audi dealership. I went over there. Danny Posey was the manager. Got a good relationship. Just kept on going back. And when I tell you next door to us, it's like you could kick a rock and you'll hit the dealership. And they sent us all the tint. And they sent us some PPF. PPF still wasn't, it wasn't like educated, nothing like window tint. And we just did the window tint, and I kind of got blessed with that because we were doing like shoot 40 something $1,000 a month just from Audi, and then 20 something from my retail, and tint PPF we were still doing, 3 to 6, whatever it was. We wasn't doing much, but at least I never gave up on it. And that just what took me like from here to here, because at that time I was just washing cars. I didn't know how to tint at that time, so I didn't learn how to tint until 2008. You know, and we just started all this from a car wash, and we just had to figure it out because not making any money. But Lucky Tint like supported that because you could tint cars whether it rain or not rain because you tint it inside. I mean, but that's what kind of supported us and how everything got started.
Hmm. Did you have like indoor shop area at the car wash?
Yeah, yeah. So I had one little garage that only could fit one car, and if we put it in a truck, it would stick out. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was like a really, really small garage. It had mow on it. I mean, it was just nasty, dirty. But at that time, we wasn't worried about that. I didn't know anything about a clean space at that time, anyway.
So you were cranking out 40,000 for the Audi dealership from that one bay.
Yeah, you got to see how efficient it was. That's how the two got started. I mean, if you look up the pillboard or glass station, I was the guy that actually invented it, and that's why I call it a glass station instead of pillboard, because a pillboard is just a glass on a wall or glass somewhere. But we call it a glass station, and we just hung stuff in the air, like power cord. I was the first one. Well, I'm not gonna say I was the first one, but I was one of the first one. I might be like the one that invented it. I don't know, but we had spray tanks that we were using. Like I was using spray tanks from back then because I was using the spray tanks for the car wash. So if you go to my Upper Curry car wash, you'll see all the spray tanks on the side and everything's running. Cause we could wash a car in 15 minutes, like a good wash. And I know that probably sound crazy, but that wash used to take us probably about 40 minutes to 45 minutes. I cut it down to 15 minutes because if you know anything about the car wash, hand car wash side, it was all about car count. The more car you can wash, the more money you can make. And that's what the efficiency came in. And people were surprised because on the winter tent, yeah, I mean, we used to stay late, but man, sometime I'll get like two other guys and we'll just stay there, like one side, and we'll knock off a car in about 15, 20, 30 minutes. And we just had to prove efficiency. I wasn't going to say no to that. Like how that was my pot to go, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna go ahead and give you all these cars, this contract." And I only had one bay. I mean, I had no other choice but to make it work. And in order to make it work, we just just had to do the efficiency on how we could make tint the car a lot quicker, just like what we did with the car wash.
It's funny because I'm actually at a car wash right now, just like how you set up. That's where our shop is. So we have two bays, not one. Yeah, it's I'm as you're saying that 15-minute wash time. I'm trying to think of how to do that.
Yeah. No, no, we do it. So if you ever come to Houston, I'll show you. So we have the car come in and it just vacuum there. You do nothing else. It's just vacuum and like clean the mats and stuff like that. Then it pull in and you get wash. And when you get wash, I have everything in the air. So I got the wheel sprayer to spray the wheels. We use Magnificent from Auto Magic to spray the wheels. I don't know if you use that chemical.
No.
And then we have our bug spray that we spray on the front of the car to remove the bug. And then what else? We got a bunch of spray up there. I don't operate the car wash. I haven't operated in over 5 years, but I'm the one that set up that whole thing. But when they come in, we just spray it and wash it. We don't have to sit there and work too hard to be scrubbing wheels. Back
Mm-hmm.
then I used to we'll sit there and clean that wheel like 2 times because it was so grimy. And then now we just that chemical magnificent and my way of thinking back then was to always save money. I grew up in a Asian household. I don't know. I grew up in the 80s and everybody's trained to save money. So that was my whole mindset back then. And I thought about it and I was like, that chemical always been around. I just didn't only wanted to use it on really dirty wheels. I didn't want to put it in a spray tank. I wanted to not use that much of that chemical. It was really expensive. And I should have did that long time ago, but I didn't. So then when I started looking at it, I was like, you know, I just saved like more than half our time of washing the car just because of putting everything down. Yeah, we're gonna use a little bit more of that chemical. Yeah, some of the guys that's gonna spray, because some of the guys that spray, they just love spraying that nozzle just to spray it. Even if there's no bug, they'll just spray it. So I had to take the good with the bad, but that was how we got it set up to be efficient. And then my mindset just always been like that, from the car wash to window tint to PPF to everything I'm doing. It was always about efficiency, because if somebody told you that they're going to give you 48,000 dollars a month to tint cars, you only got one bay, you have no choice. You're going to make it happen. Like some of these guys have 4 or 6 bays, or I mean, probably 4 bays, and they're not even doing $48,000 in tent a month. And then I only have one. I had no choice. I had to make it work, and either that or I had to make it work. There was just no other choice. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Were you doing a lot of tint before you took on that Audi dealership?
we were doing anywhere from 15 to a little over like 26,000 a month in tent. It just varied,
And that was
month
all
to month.
contracted out?
No, I contracted it out until 2008. Well, I still did it until like 2011, but 2008 is when I started learning how to tint. And I didn't get good at tinting until late 2010 to like 2011. But I was kind of never good. And then the reason why I became the reason why I I wanted to take on 10, I think it was 2010 or something like that. I had a tenant that I hired, and when I went back there, he was with his girlfriend and they were smoking something, but it wasn't weed, it wasn't cigarette, it was something. And I just knew it wasn't right. And then after that, I just had a lot of problem with that tenant anyway. He was sometimes he don't show up and stuff. My whole schedule with subbing out, and that's the reason why I'm like really really good at in-house training, was every time I sub out something or sub out jobs or whatever, I was always, or even hire somebody that have like 15 years experience, my schedule was always on their time. We just never like move anywhere. We should have been like successful a long time ago, but it was based on, if this person show up, hey Mike, I can't come in today, I got another job, or they might go to another company because they're paying them really good, and then they come back 2 weeks. It was just a lot of stuff, and my whole business on the film side was evolving. That the car wash side was always good. We always had guys that do it, but when you're talking about the skill level of window tint and PPF, it was just always a mess. It's something that, till this day give me flashback, and that's the reason why we always train from scratch now. Like we have a whole training. You could come in to AFS in 3 months, you'll be fully trained to do whatever discipline you need, you know.
Mm. Wow. I mean, that seems like a lot of work for subcontracting. I mean, did you have like multiple subcontractors, or like did these guys have a team? Were they there Monday through Wednesday, or How did you deal with that?
We just call we call them when we have jobs, so they didn't sit around. Some of them did, throughout the time, but yeah, we wasn't doing that much, so it wasn't much. 40 some thousand dollar a tent is not really a lot. If you think it's a lot, it's because they're charging 125 dollars, but we're charging more than that. But 40 tent a week for one person, I don't think it's a lot. It's, because at that time we were just tenting. Uh, you know, um, we wasn't doing that many windshield stuff like that. So when I say 40 something cars, that's SUV trucks, cars. Some of them have windshield
Hmm.
stuff like that. So it's not like cars like you're still sit down. I was doing probably about 40, 45 cars during my when I was 10. So it's not a lot of cars
A
in a
week.
week. When that's 6 days a week though.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And you were doing detailing there too at the car wash,
Yeah.
and then chip repair and windshield repair and other services
I
as
was doing
well.
all. I was learning how I bought that Delta kit. I don't know, you know what it is,
No.
but it's a Delta kit is that's the name of the company. And they did a really good job. They sell you a kit and then they teach you how to use it on YouTube, you know. And I look it up and I was just practicing and stuff like that and we did pretty good. We started getting it with the insurance. The insurance gave us like 50 to 70 bucks each on it. And on a Saturday we were doing anywhere from like 10 windshield repair from the car wash.
Hmm.
Like that's a really big for anybody that own a car wash, I would highly recommend it because all these guys that are coming to the car wash or detailing center, those clients don't know they have like a rock chip on their windshield. You have
Hmm.
to spot it out. You be like, same thing with a dent. Like, hey, you got a rock chip right here. Do you want to fix it? Yeah, well, it's free with your insurance, or you can pay us $40,
Hmm.
and they're paying.
You only had one bay to do all of this back then?
No, no, no. So one bay was the winter tent and the PPF, and then on the outside part is where we wash cars. So it was
Okay.
never inside.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a parking lot, and then I built this too. So I put these metal. So we went ahead and we put the metal and everything up so it could give us shade and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and the electric. It was built bootleg. I mean, I didn't have no city permit or nothing. I finally got caught. When did I get caught? I think I finally got caught 2012. Man, like they made me dug up the whole thing. By that time, I had a little bit of money saved up that we could put a sand trap and everything else. Because that's a federal offense, like washing cars and letting it fall on you know the regular sewage or whatever on the street. So we had a special underground thing that a grit trap, a sand trap, and stuff like that that get cleaned up every 3 months. But
Hmm.
yeah, we finally got caught. But everything I did at the car wash was just all like not by city code. It was, but I mean, I kind of at that time I didn't know any better, and some of it I did know, and I just left it alone, and you know, and but that's how we built the car wash. I mean, the lobby was a little shed that I got from Home Depot.
Hmm.
And then it came in, and if you know anything about the tow truck, they got that little wheel that dropped down,
Hmm.
that spread out, and that's
Yeah.
how I move it in place. I call a buddy of mine that got a tow truck, move it in place, and yeah, that was the little lobby, and then
Wow.
and yeah. So we didn't. That's how we had it, and I think that little lobby is man maybe 150 square feet, 200. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, but that's where the customer would sit at. And I made it pretty good. I put a little AC unit that you'll put on the window. I put that. We cut a little hole so the customer will be, comfortable while they're getting their car wash. I put a little tree because it was sitting on center blocks. So I
Hmm.
didn't want them to see the center blocks, so I put little trees right there. Yeah.
How are you getting your business other than the Audi dealership?
At that time,
Yeah.
Oh, it was retail. So most of it came from the car wash. So it was it was the car wash was feeding everything.
Did you have a way to sell like the people at the car wash? Like, did you have a few guys that were walking around talking to people?
Yeah, yeah. So when they pull up, we tell them if they don't have tint that we do tint, and then they'll give us tint. But then I had this big old sign in the front that said window tint, 3M window tint. I had a big old sign. We're on a major street at, and people will see that sign, they'll pull in. But that's how we did it. We never advertised or anything. But just from the business of the car wash, guys will come in. That car wash is only one bay, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but we used to wash like 60 to 67 cars because we used to do car count on a Saturday,
Mhm.
and that was like on the hype on the when they was doing really really good. I had like 14 guys just washing cars, you know, and they only had one space too, like one space. Like you only could vacuum one car, you couldn't vacuum two cars. It was no more space. You only could wash one car, you couldn't wash two cars. It was just one space, and then we had a detail space, and then it just go out on the close to the street when it's done. But yeah, we were really really efficient. Like you have to see this. I'm like, I look back at it, and I'm really surprised that I could pull off something like that. Because looking back now, um, um, I just think I had to be at that mindset of being desperate and doing whatever it take to be successful, because I couldn't do that right now. Like I kind of already surpassed that, and I don't want to go through that. Like we're moving cars left and right, you know. We're always in the way of each other. Just imagine you're having a small kitchen that's really busy, and you have 14 guys in there. Y'all just gonna run into each other, and that's what we did all day. Yeah.
At what point did you realize you had to get a bigger shop?
That I wanted another shop. It wasn't because I realized I needed another shop. We just wanted another shop because we kind of outgrew that shop. And we wanted to have multiple location. We always did. That was just always what we wanted, and we got lucky because the location. And I was really good at that time. Not I didn't have a lifestyle. Like my lifestyle was really really simple. I drove a Toyota Prius that the payment was like $300. The insurance was like 100 something. We kind of like trade pizza for car wash next door. That was the worst thing you ever do. Guys, don't ever trade a service. And the reason why I say don't trade pizza is because the dude, like, we won on the pizza deal because we get pizza all the time. And he come get his car wash like every Friday or something. But then we lost. I lost on the oil change place because the guy would change my oil. And I don't need an oil change like probably every 2 or 3 months. But he come every Friday to get a car wash. That's why I said don't trade.
Mhm.
Somebody's gonna lose on that deal. And the pizza guy lost. And but the thing about the pizza guy was I wouldn't want somebody to go to that because at the end of the day he was, I don't know how you say it because I don't like the word stealing, but he was stealing pizza every day to give to us because that was the deal that we made. But if I own a company like that, I wouldn't want somebody to do that. That's why I say, man, don't barter, don't trade, just pay them, let them pay you for your services. But that was how it went back then. Like we just like I traded a bunch of stuff. By the time that it was enough trade, I was getting, at that time I was hiring a service advisor, and he's like, dude, this guy get a free car wash. This guy get a free car wash. This guy get a free. I said, just give him a free car wash. They're like, man, how many free car wash you gonna keep on giving like by that? And I just kept on doing that, and because I didn't know him better at that time, but now I know and then, lucky I cut it. I was like, even guys want to trade something with me, like 10, and they'll be like, hey man, I'll give you this much for whatever because they own a little business. I'm like, no, 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 let's just support each other. You just pay this, I'll pay that. That's I don't want to. I got I got guys that own restaurant that will be willing to give me a gift certificate to their restaurant for the window tint. And I just say, man, just pay for it. I always come to your restaurant. I still come to your restaurant, but that's just a better way of doing it than trading. But yeah, that's what we did back then. But it was the worst thing that I did for my business. But
So when did you move into to the next shop or your next location?
the next one, 2009, late 2009, and we still have that location.
What
So
location is that?
the Midtown location.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the car wash. That that is built on like 20,000 square feet, and it could handle more cars. Like it could. So that one at its prime, it was washing like 100, a little over 100 cars. Would say like 100 to 120 on a Saturday. It was washing 3,500 cars a month. That location.
And were you also doing window tinting and all the other services there?
Yeah. So I had it at that time when we built it. We didn't have a garage, so we took it to the first location, and then I rented a house. There's a house next to it, and I rented that house for a little bit more money. But then I rented out. I mean, no, at that time I didn't rent out his house. I rented out his house later on, but he was willing to let me rent out his 2-car garage for like $500. So I rent that out, and that's where we started doing tent and PPF. So he didn't have a garage no more, but that was still his house, and he let me do that. And then eventually I moved into the house. That
Oh
was
wow.
next. It was next to the place. Like when I say next door, it was just next door, and it just made sense that we had to have a place there. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, to do the tent.
it was a lot of stuff just making shit work, man.
Hmm.
Until now, like I wouldn't do stuff that way. But then I tell everybody like every time usually when I do a podcast, I tell everybody like I want everybody to know like there's level to this. You might be in the beginning stage of your business, you might be in the mature stage of your business. There's some stuff that I say that you might think is stupid, and I think it's stupid too. I mean, looking back, but you have to understand like there's guys out there that's trying to start, and when they're trying to start, like man, sometimes it might be, a little storage place, and they have to get it going, or they might have the tent outside, mobile, or whatever. You can't kind of say you won't get a clean job is stupid. I mean, like we all have to start somewhere, and some of the stuff I talk about, some guys can relate to it, be like, shit, I went through that crazy shit Mike went through too, like it was I'm ADHD, ADD, and the way I started my business is the same way. It just kept on going like this. Like it was no organization, there was no system, there was no procedure, process, no policy. There was just nothing, you know. And that was just how it ran. I just look at it like I was willing to work so hard and to put in all the hours because what I was doing, I just couldn't give up. That it didn't matter what it take, I'm gonna do it, even if it was crazy, But the crazy shit is what kind of take you somewhere. Because I think all entrepreneur, business people, anybody that want to be in business yourself, you're not, you got a loose nut somewhere up here,
Hmm.
because you have to, be crazy because everybody's kind of like against everything that you're doing. Like they're like, go get a job, go work for somebody, and there's nothing wrong with that because there's leaders and followers, and there's good leaders and there's good followers. The same thing with. Because you own a business doesn't make you a good leader. Same thing with guys that or that's working for you, man. There's guys that work for like that can work and take make really good money and take their skill set to another level, and then there's guys that's just gonna do what you tell them to do, and just half-ass it, or just do just enough.
Yeah.
You know,
Were you making much profit back then?
I was making like 30 something thousand when I started a year, like 30 something.
That's what your take home was?
Yeah, like 30 something thousand a year.
Hmm.
It
But
was like
the business was that very profitable?
It
Like
was a
once you
car
pay for
wash,
all
and I
your.
was only charging $14. There wasn't much money to make. It was actually $11, and I think I raised it up to 14, like less than 3 months, because I was like, man, $11 sucked for a car wash, And then
Yeah.
it went up to 14, but we stuck at $14 for, man. I think I changed it. I moved it up to 25, like in maybe in 2010 or nine. Just think about it.
Hmm.
I was counting. See, my way of thinking back then was, if you're in a and all everybody that's in the car wash industry, everybody will tell you what's your car count. That's the language that we spoke. Because I got Kevin Jenkins and stuff like that own big car washes, and they always talk like that, and I just talk like them. And everything was all about car count. You know, it was about charging the lowest and having the most vehicle, come in. And it was all about that. So I never thought about raising my price. I was just like, man, how can I bring in more cars? That's don't I, I mean that don't fucking make sense. Because if I raise up my price, I wouldn't have to have more cars. But I didn't know none of that back then, and that was just how I operated. And we were just trying. That's why you're asking, like, you didn't make that much money back then. I didn't, but like I told you earlier, I didn't have a heavy living expense. Like, that was good money to me. Like like 2,000, a little over $2,000 a month was good money to me. I'm not like. That's why I just had a consultant consultation earlier this week, and the person is 20, 23, and he owned a business, whatever, and he was telling me, like, he's taken for I think $6,000 home, and he told me that's not enough, and I told him, man, what the fuck you mean? Like, you're only 23 years old. Like, you need to change your whole lifestyle. Like, you're thinking about this all wrong, and all of it is coming from seeing Instagram. We didn't have that back then. I didn't get to see how many young people are rich. Or people that are like, shoot, 18-year-old that are making a lot of money because they're TikTok or whatever. But I just told them, like, your lifestyle at that age, at 23, if it can't support $6,000 a month, man, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, because I wouldn't hire anybody that told me that they're a 20-year-old and they need to have $6,000 a month to live, because I'm gonna take on that problem. They might be buying a Hellcat and can't, for over, I don't know, $1,500 a month payment. You don't need a $1,500 a month payment when you're that young, and that's what a lot of. I mean, I'm not gonna say a lot, but just to consult with guys, and they're telling me they need to make more money, and these business owners now that are in our industry are really young, you know. They're really young, and most of them really haven't worked for anybody, and I tell them, like, they need to go work for somebody. You need to, don't skip that step, because you'll learn so much. Like, you'll learn something from the business owner of somebody to operate a business right. You'll learn the process, procedure, and stuff like that. But they just want to go do that 4-day training and go out, and I'm doing ceramic coating, or I'm open for business to do all that. I mean, you see that, and they're skipping that step, and that's like the foundation. And you just skip the foundation, and once you skip that, like, you never built a foundation, and it's just not gonna go. It's just not gonna go right. Period. You know.
So you think anyone that's starting a detailing or wanting to start a detailing business should go and work for another detailing business first?
Yeah, they should. Have you ever, if you look, and I did this study, and I ask question all the time, because that's just how I am. Because I sat at a bar yesterday, but this is everywhere I go. And when somebody they always ask me what I do for a living. And the reason why they always ask me what I do for a living is because They see me come in with a nice car. They see me, how they kind of look me up and down. They look at my necklace, look at my watch, and everything else. But then the way I'm dressed, I dress like a window tinter. Like but I'm in this really really nice restaurant, and they always ask me what do I do for a living, and I tell them I tint window. They're like, you tint window, and then I ask them back what do they do for a living. And when they tell me they're a business owner, that's when the conversation go really really good. We start talking like, how did you get into your business? I start asking really really good questions because some of these guys that I'm talking to are worth like 25 and hundreds of million, and I love hearing those stories. But every time I ask them the story, and they tell me they own a restaurant and stuff like that, they always told me that when they went to the restaurant, they worked at, they were mopping the floor, they were dishwashing, and then they went into start cooking the food, and then they start being manager and stuff like that. And then they collected all those skill set within that same industry and that same business that they want to open, that they open their own business and they become successful. And you're knocked down the learning curve. And if you see that with a lot of successful people, and they'll tell you like, man, this business. I used to be the guy that mopped the floor, and now I own that shit. I bought it from the owner, like, or they own another business in the same, if it's a restaurant or something. But I see that a lot in the restaurant industry is the guys don't take the shortcut. They end up working at the restaurant, learning how to cut sushi. One of the top sushi chef here in Houston was on Iron Chef. I mean, Iron, that famous TV show, and he worked at my friend restaurant, as a waiter. And then he told my friend Mike Collin, he said, you know what, I wanna learn how to cut sushi. I can help him. And he did that. And then they started being the main chef, cutting sushi. And then the dude owned a badass restaurant right now. Think about it. Like his success and him being successful was he had a high chance of it. You have a really low chance of being successful if you don't go out and work for somebody. Like, what are you gonna learn? Like, how did that company get their business? What was their process? Is there something they do first? Why did they do it this way? And instead of you having to sit there and figure it out, and that's what I see. What everybody's doing right now is taking a 4-day course, getting led on to like you can make a lot of money in this industry. You can, but you're gonna that guy that actually been working tinting cars or ceramic coating or PPF, that guy that been doing it for 3 to 5 years, that been working for somebody, is gonna be more successful than you. If I mean you'll still take that 5 years of making mistakes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. That's social media has changed that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's someone's trying to sell you a course ultimately, as people are
Mhm.
trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
And, rightfully so. I mean, if you're hustling detailing cars, then at some point, the thought process for a lot of these guys is, well, I'm just going to start telling people to do exactly what I did. But for the reality is, for most people, that's not really how you learn.
Yeah.
It's not how you grow. It's not how you get to become a detailing business owner or a window tint shop owner. You really probably need to go and work for someone else, is what you're saying.
You should you have to. I like I'm I just think you'll be more successful in that. You should work for somebody. Makes you get to make some money and you get to learn. Like, how can you like you can't beat that. If you go to a trade school, what is it, MTI or MIT or whatever, to learn how to do, mechanic or something like that.
I
UTI,
think,
UTI.
yeah, MIT's
Yeah, yeah.
that's the
That's the Boston
Ivy
College. Yeah,
League.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my yeah. So you go to UTI. These guys are paying like a lot of money. They're paying over $60,000, $70,000. Some of them are relocating to go to UTI, like in Houston, because they're from another state or city that don't have UTI. And I see that because they come in, they ask me if they can work, after hours, and I talk to them, and they're paying for a 2-year school, And then I look at it and I was like, man, that 2 year school that you pay for could be done in like really like 6 months. Cause you still have to learn when you get out. When they come out, they still gotta go to a shop and learn. I mean but the learning process is still a little bit easier because a mechanic shop is gonna take them in and just let them do oil change, brake change, all the simple all the simple mechanical skill that I could do,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's college as a
and
whole.
that's and then you get to learn from there, but they're gonna start off getting paid the same as like anybody else. I just don't see like you pay all that money, but then you could go work at a window tint shop or detailing shop, and a few years you get paid and you get to learn.
Yeah.
And a business, yeah, because the easy part is learning how to tint. I know tint is a difficult skill to learn. It is, but if you're talking about comparing to running a business and knowing the business side, tent tent is easy. Business is always changing. It's really, really difficult, and you need to learn how to do that. Like how you hire somebody. Do you have a hiring scorecard? Do you have a hiring process? Do you even know how to hire, or you just hiring your friends? Everybody else hire their friends. Like if I go there and be like, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with hiring your friend, but man, it's kind of hard. I want my friends to do as good as me, and it's kind of hard to hire your friend because when they look at you, they're gonna be like, man, I thought you're gonna put me down and I'm supposed to make the kind of money you're making,
Mhm.
and it's I don't own like a mortgage company or like a law firm or like investment firm where I could pay somebody that kind of money, and that's the only way because those guys will come in there, or traders or something like that. They'll come in and make $300,000 a year, But this is the reality of this industry. This we don't try to cap anybody, but there's only so much you can make. I've never seen a window tinner that worked for a company and make 300,000, or even like I say more than 160. For window tinting. Flat glass might be different, but I'm talking about auto tint. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's just, I mean, it's a different skill set than other things. And there's just some things that have an average, it's like the same thing with detailing, I mean, how much does a detailer, how much is that really worth per hour?
yeah. I mean, when I started, I'm giving advices from mistakes I made. But when I started, I didn't I didn't go work for. I mean, I always worked for somebody, but I never worked for somebody that ran a successful paint protection film shop because there was nobody in town. We were one of three people that started it. That I didn't work for somebody that owned. We brought in the film 3M crystalline in town, but I didn't know another shop that carried that film and stuff like that. It was a lot of stuff that we were new to doing. There was nobody to help me back then, and I wish going back, I would have went to go work for somebody to learn all this stuff because it took me over 12 years for sure, maybe over 15 years. But it took me that long. But for a little over 10 years, I was stuck at the same place. There was no movement. Remember, I told you like we were charging $14 for a car wash. We didn't know how to up that. I should have, because if you went back to all these years, and I would have just say I would have charged $18 or raise it up to 16, 18, 19, 20, whatever. Look how much money I would have got. That was money I is already like it's gone. Like I can't. I'm never gonna get it, But look at all these years. I could have raised the car wash maybe $1, $2 a year. I don't know what I was thinking, and kept on doing it, and the customer would have gradually not noticed that. You get what I'm saying? or they would have said okay to it. Like, you can't go raise up a car wash and do what I did and went from 14 to $25 because I had no raise. I didn't raise any price of my service between all these years, and then all of a sudden I raise it up. You know how many people are like, I'm
Mhm.
not gonna that told me I'm not gonna come here no more. Y'all gonna lose business. I hope whatever. And I just had to stick by it because I know if I would have charged $14, I wouldn't. I would. I just wouldn't. Be able to pay my overhead. But think about new business, and all these years I just raised it up like $1, $2, and then next year I raise it $1. If you're my customer and I raise it up to 15, you wouldn't notice. You wouldn't care. You'd be like, oh, that's 15. And then next year I got you for 16. Next year I got you for 17. Or you could do every $2 increment. It's whatever you want to do. But I never did that. And that's why I was stuck for so long, at the same place.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the business side of things. That's not the same as just being a technician. There's a
Yeah.
lot that goes into that. Now, you said you were in the same place for 12, 15 years or so. Um, I mean, what do you mean by that exactly? Like, were you seeing growth in paint protection film and coatings and
We
your retail side of your window tints business?
we was, but it was like it wasn't that much over year by year, you know, and the inflation caught up with it. Everything cost a little bit more, so we just, even though I made a little bit more, I was still in the same. Like, we there was a lot of stuff that we should have done that we didn't do, that I should have done that we didn't do. One of the main thing was I was always stuck like washing cars, and then when there's a winter tint job, I'll go tint window. If there's a PPF job, I'll go to PPF. I was never like looking at my business and seeing like what I could do better. I just let everything come to me. So the Audi dealership came to me, the BMW dealership came to me. They were clients, but I could have went out and got a lot more stuff done. But I was just like really always stuck just working in the business. That's how, I mean, that's the reason. It's a good thing because that's the reason why I became a really good tech. I was really good at doing, working with my hands and the skill set. I was really, I didn't like window tinting, but I was really, really, really good at it. And then now I love it. But I, and that's why I became really good at paint protection film. I just wish I would have just speeded up and kind of like took a step back, because I was always working. Like, I was working from 6 to like probably 10 o'clock at night, sometime more. Yeah, 6 a.m. And I was just always working, 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 working. That I never got a chance to work on the business. You know. So,
What changed?
I got a partner in 2014. Probably before that, he was talking to me, so I got a partner. And my partner graduated from U of H and with a business degree, and he is one of the main reasons why this company is successful. It's because he was always busy. He was hands on too. So he was just like me, but he was, because of me and him, we started to build a team. So in 2016, we started to build a team, and when we started to build the team, and some was good, some was bad, and then now we learn how to build, like, our hiring process is like really, it's a longer process, and we make sure it's a longer process, because the last thing we want to do is just hire somebody because we need somebody, and they're a bad apple. So we learned how to build a team, and it's because of he was one of the main reasons, because we partner up with him, and then that's when we name it AFS. Because before that, the the car wash was by itself, and then the window tint was cosmetic tint. It was a different name, and we were doing PPF, but we wasn't doing that much PPF. But we wanted a name that would stand for everything, and that's where auto film specialist came from, AFS.
Hmm.
Because we couldn't name it cosmetic tint; it just wouldn't make sense because we're doing a lot more than that.
How'd you meet your business partner?
Oh, I known him for a really, really long time. His name is Vu Nguyen. He owned a graphic and sign shop, and I used to send him a lot of cars to do rapping and stuff, vinyl rap and stuff, and commercial rap and stuff like that. So we have customer, and sometime I'll sub out the work, or sometime I'll just refer him to work. One of those. But he was seeing like, how is Mike getting all these work and sending them to me? And then he saw it from the car wash because I always like chit chat and talk to customer. I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna buy some work truck or something like that. I'd be like, hey, you gonna get some work truck? We could do commercial vinyl because I'm always thinking of something to feed to the car wash because we always have to find something for the car wash to do because there's always time where it rain and cloudy and the car wash is slow. So I'm always doing that. So I was sitting in a lot of work, and then he was just seeing it, and he was like, "Man, this is crazy!" Like, I there's something. There's times I pack up his whole shop with just clients from the car wash, and for like almost 2 years, he was talking to me. He's like, "Man, we gotta do something together." And I just was so busy. And remember, I'll tell you, I was busy because I was always working, like, so I never got time to work on the business. I mean, I did, but nothing like right now. And so we decided to partner up, and he owned a graphic and sign shop, so that's why we do a lot of commercial work now. Like we do everything for the Houston Astro. So you see all that when you come to Houston and you see that truck that's right there, we wrap everything. So we wrap it. We wrap a bunch of cars for they put it in different sections. We do everything for Centerpoint Energy, everything for Hewlett Packard, 180 something building that we take care of for the government building, Harris County, all the courthouse and stuff like that. So we do a lot of commercial stuff. So the commercial part of our business is big time, and he's part of the reason why. Because when we team up, we got to have all the printers and stuff. So we're able to do that.
So partnering, I think, can be one of the best things that someone does in their business, or one of the worst things. I think that you know
I
bad
can speak
partners,
on that.
or
You know, I got
yeah, please.
I got two bad partnership. Before this, I had one that he was working with me and stuff like that, and then he had a different idea, and we kind of went off the car wash. He wanted to do a mobile car wash, and I was like, no, I'm against that mobile car wash. Like we have to do it, and he decided to do it. I mean, but it didn't work out the way it wanted to work out. But that partnership didn't work out, and I know why. The other partnership, well, I had three that didn't work out, and then the other one, uh, he came. I needed money, and then he came, and then he's supposed to work at the car wash. Eventually, he only worked Saturday, and then the next thing you know, he only worked Sunday. So and I look back at it, sweat equity mean more than any money. Don't ever take on a partnership because you need their money. That's gonna be the worst thing you do. A lot of people lose on it because if somebody is like, and I seen it like even on post, like this dude is worth like 20-30 million dollar, and he's willing to partner up with me in cars. And these guys are getting into our industry because they like it. It's cool. It's a hobby of theirs. They don't care if they make money or not. But one thing they know is they know about money, they know about contract, they know about that. So the person that's going to lose is usually us because they're more educated in business than we are. But don't ever take on a partnership because you need money. I wouldn't take on an investor because I need money. Like it's just nothing good come out of it. This like you're gonna be working your ass off. At the end, it's gonna pay off. I mean, if you need to do anything, I mean, borrow money from the bank, but you don't need a partner. You don't need an investor. But if you're gonna take on a partnership, he got to bring value to the table. He got to be like within your industry. Y'all got to have same duty. Y'all gonna be upset with each other, and you kind of have to respect it when he's upset, and he got to respect when you're upset. You just sometimes if he's mad, just shut the fuck up, and if I'm mad, shut the fuck up. That's what it is. You don't need to sit there and argue, but that's one thing I learned from the three partnership that I have, and the last one I had to pay to get out of it. So we did. I paid to get out. I was like, it was just the right time, and I was like, man, here's the money, or we got to put in money because I'm done with like it's not fair for me to be working 7 days a week, 10 12 hours a day, and you only get one day. But most of these guys, even with good paying job or their own business or their own practice firm or whatever else, they're just giving you the money and be like, hey, go run your business. But there's a contract behind it. But then when you start doing good, then that and y'all got to split up the money. I just feel like it's unfair. I mean, you got to bring something to the table, something, and it have to be sweat equity. That's one of it, and it have to be something else. But sweat equity mean you're gonna work, you're gonna do whatever you have to do, or you might have a contract to this or whatever else. But you have to work together because there's not gonna you can't be partnership and just one person just worked their ass off and the other person just gave money. That just don't work.
It just creates bitterness and resent.
Yeah, like you go home and you go home and you go and then you're upset with them. You talk shit about them, and they're probably doing the same thing on the other side. Like what he's ungrateful. I mean, they might be saying like he's ungrateful. I just gave that dude $150,000 to build his business. Nobody gave it to him. That's the way he look at it, and it's fair. And then you look at it from this man. I'm working, 7 days a week, 10 hours, 14 hours a day, and his lazy ass don't come to work. But you never kind of mention that he gave the 150. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But looking back at it, sweat equity mean more than the money. You cannot trade that for money because you're gonna be putting the time to build up your company. You're gonna get it anyway. You
Mhm.
know, if you need to borrow money from the bank, borrow it from the bank. Borrow money. You can borrow money all you want, but don't take on a partner. Don't take on an investor. If you're gonna take on don't take an investor for sure. But if you're gonna take on a partner, you got to make sure they bring something to the table, like a lot, not just money. It can't be that. You don't want to take on an investor like that. Just don't make sense. Like our business don't really need to borrow like $500,000 to build. You could build our business with. I don't know. I mean, what stage you're at, but it could be 30 to 100 to maybe 200,000, just depending what you want. You know, but you don't need to go borrow. I mean, even if you go borrow $100,000 from somebody, I mean, as an investor, I just think that's a really bad deal. Like, he got to get something out of his money,
Yeah.
and he's not gonna take little pennies, you know, and he's gonna be really mad when he let you borrow that money, and then in that year he only get like, you know, maybe 10% back. He don't want that. I never seen an investor that will give you 100,000 want back $10,000, like as part of his investment. He's gonna want more than that.
Yeah, I think the reason a lot of people want to take on money or an investor is because they want to be at the finish line from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, you're skipping it. There's level to this, and you're skipping it, and it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, you have to start. You should start at the same spot everyone else starts at, right? Which is learning the craft, learning the trade,
I
getting in
know,
the
but
trenches.
if you see what I'm seeing, there's a lot of guys get into our industry, and 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 they have money, and they want to get into our industry because they're seeing it, think they can make some money, and then what they do is take on, a person like me or you or somebody else that knows something, and want to be a partnership or investor because they actually want ownership of it, because it's actually a cool business to them to own a wrap shop, ceramic coating shop. I'm seeing I'm firsthand seeing a guy that have a collection of Ferraris that own a shop, and it's just cool to him to have a shop, but that's not his real money. This guy is taking care of, but then he get to brag about it, like, hey, this is my shop, and look at the cars we work on. These are my cars, and it's just cool. And I'm like looking at it, and I was like, man, you know what? I'm always trying to put myself in that shoe. I said, man, you know what? If I had a badass job, paying me $2 or $3 million a year, and I got a collection of cars. I love cars. I wouldn't want to own that shop, but I don't know nothing about the paint protection film. I just know that I want it for my car. And so, and they're getting into it, and they're actually getting into to the business and to the industry, and they're not getting into it to, it's a cool thing for them. But then for me and you, we have to make money. Like, you can't go build a shop and spend. And I seen that too. You go drop like over 600 to $1 million on a shop. Man, you'll be chasing that debt forever. Like, where's the money at? Because you know what that investor want? He's gonna guarantee you, I want my money first, and then after that we can split it.
Mhm.
Man, you got to pay back all that money, and it's on contract. It's the same thing with buying a house or something. The interest come first before the principal get paid. Stuff like that. So these guys would do their paperwork like that, and I seen it, and I was like, man, we gotta pay back what we borrow, and because without that, we wouldn't have this building. I'll be like, screw that. Like, you're gonna be paying that back for a long time and making nothing, because all he's making is his salary, and his salary might be, I don't know, 2, 3, $4,000 a month, and he owned the business, but he don't get to take any money home because they gotta keep on paying that debt.
So were you always pretty business savvy and like did you always think about the numbers on things or was that more of your partner?
I'm a number guy. I always been a number guy. I've been like that since like middle school. Like, I always been like tier 4 and math. Like, and I always, but then I didn't know how to apply it correctly in business. Now I do. I mean, it took me a long time, so probably in like, I applied it, but I didn't apply it like right now. Like right now, man, we do a lot of like numbers. Like, we do production report. We could forecast, like, if 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 we're doing what we're gonna do, we're doing bad or anything like that. We could forecast our payroll and everything else. So we're really good at that. We're really good at knowing our numbers on like where we need to be. And I tell everybody, like, you only have 100%. You can never, when you start scaling your business and it start making like over 600-800,000, you can't be like, I'm gonna pay $50 here, I'm gonna pay 2,000 here. It have to be a percentage, because you could say that when you're making like 300-400,000, and I say the reason why is because when you're in that like 200,000 or 300,000 range, most of that money is yours. Guess why? Because you're picking up the phone, you're answering the email, you're taking out the trash, you're buying the supply, you're installing it on the car, you're cleaning the car, you're ceramic coating the car. You're doing most of that stuff that you don't have to hire somebody for. But when you start getting into the 600, 800 and over seven figure, you start hiring people because the phone ring more. Now you gotta hire somebody to pick up the phone. You gotta have somebody to manage the supply, the inventory, the guys, the schedule, and you gotta hire somebody for that. And that's when the percentage come into play. But before that, everybody be like, hey man, I'll take home 160, $170,000 home from like 300 something, 400,000. And I know where they're at. They're still doing that. But I know if you tell me you're doing like 600-800,000, I know like you have, employees, because you can't do that. These two hands just won't make that, as much. These two hands, I was doing like a little over 400, 450 a year with my company, with just working with my hand, but that was like crazy. That was just working like many hours, but I just know if you're doing over $1 million in sales, I know you got a sales guys, because there's no way for you for me and you can't really sell over $1 million if we're installing, taking out the trash, buying supply, answering the phone and stuff like that. It's kind of hard. So it just depends. Like if you tell me what number you're at and how you want to get to the next number, I'll tell you. Like if you tell me you're stuck at, and most people are always stuck at like between the 200 or 300, and I'll tell them you gotta stop installing. You gotta hire somebody, and then you go move up to the front. The hardest job to give up, that when I do consulting, the hardest job to give up is sales. Like everybody always saying, man, they can't sell better than me. If I'm not on the phone, they can, that sell is 6,000, could have been 10,000. But man, that's kind of bullshit, because you could teach somebody to be better than you, because they will be better than you. Think about if you hire somebody and their only job is to take care of the customer, to pick up the phone, to answer the lead, to check them in, check them out, QC process, keep them updated. They're gonna do a way better job than me. I can't do that. I tried. I mean, I did that before, but we didn't make that. We wasn't that busy. We didn't have multiple locations. Yeah, so you can't do that. But that's why I tell everybody, like, but that's the hardest job that I can't get anybody out, and it's usually the owner. Like the owner, it's a 50-50 because it's hard to get them off of installing. But that's something they want to do. All of us want to build teams, so they're with it. But they always have this little ego that say, "Man, they can't install as good as me." And I think that's the worst thing to ever say, because you're speaking to the body, and the body will never let them be as good as you. Your job to train them to be better than you. You hire everybody to manage you and to be your boss. Period. And if you don't want to do that, that's just gonna be really rough for you. I don't want to. I didn't hire my manager to manage him. I hired him to manage me. He need to tell me what to do, what we need to do. I deal with the more, you know, like, I'm still doing payroll. I still do our production report. I still, deal with some of the business side, a lot of the business side of what we have. But I've been like, I've been, what is that called? Delegating, like really, really good. I've been pretty good. Like I've been hiring people to like take stuff off my plate, so I could do a little bit, more of the how you say it, like the task that require that's really really important, that'll take us to the next level. Maybe look for another location. Maybe get into a big dealership or something like that. I want to take on those kind of tasks. So like even on our flat glass, I'm sitting in meetings with jobs that are like $150,000, or $75,000. I don't wanna do some of the other stuff. That's why when somebody tell me, I was like, I don't wanna do those tasks, because the task that I'm doing is, setting up reading projects, and, doing a whole security film for a school district that's in the hundreds of thousands, you know. So that's why I told you, like, on the car wash side of it, I haven't operated for over 5, 6 years. I still own it, but I don't operate it no more. And then everybody asked me why I'm not there. I said, man, like, I can't go deal with a $55 problem. Like that's just not worth my time. I have to do this, and so we always preparing for bigger stuff. And everybody will know, because you got to start off somewhere, and the best thing to start off is detailing cars, because you can't detailing cars, and then when you go detailing cars, then you're gonna be like, oh shit, I need to get into window tint or ceramic coating, whatever it is. I think window tint need to come second, not ceramic coating, not PPF, because window tint is the it'll make you a lot of money, and a lot of people skip that. everybody that's a lot of people that are struggling in their business because they don't have window tint. These guys are only doing paint protection film, ceramic coating, and detailing, and then they're subbing out their window tint. And I was like, why would you sub out your window tint? And that's the reason what they're doing bad, or they're not. They're hurting because I tell them, I said, you will lose to a shop like me. Could we focus on window tint number one? And the reason why we focus on window tint number one is because if you go to the mall and you ask 500 people what window tint is, 500 people is going to tell you what window tint is. If you go to the mall and ask them what ceramic coating and PPF is, you could ask 500 people, only 20 or 30 might know what it is. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And then window tint, and the reason why a lot of guys don't focus on window tint make more than PPF. The reason why a lot of guys don't focus on window tint is because they have this perception in their head, which is from 20 years ago, that window tint is still $99. It's not, but they still think like that. We're selling winter tent for $1,000. Like our average ticket is $800 something dollar because we sell a lot of windshield. And when you start selling winter tent, but winter tent is like a vertical. Like, do you know what winter tent can get you into? It can get you into doing flat glass. You can start doing homes. You can start doing commercial building, which is easier than tinting cars, and you make 10 times more money because you're doing security film, you're doing privacy film, you're doing energy efficient film. You start messing with the professional B2B, and when you mess with B2B, they all have budget. Especially when you mess with the government want to take out all their budget. They want to use it all. They want to use more so they can borrow more, so they can borrow more next year. And that's what window tint will take you. You're not doing that with PPF. You ain't doing that with ceramic coating. That's not. I know there's guys, doing business and coating tractors and stuff like that, but it's nothing compared to what window tint is. Window tint been educated for 70 years. You know, so
When do you think you should hire a sales guy?
you should. So our goal for a salesperson is 750,000 per year. That's our goal for, and we like to call them service advisor. So that's the goal. That come out to 62,500 a month, which is nothing. They can meet is a reasonable goal. When you get that, you should throw that task away. That mean if you're doing over $750,000 in sales, you as the owner, you need to hire somebody and they need to do that. And then when it start going up, like just say, because that person can handle over a million, that he could handle probably a little over a million, comfortably. Because I know what it takes to take on cars, to do over $1 million in sales as a service advisor, salesperson. I know what it takes. It's a lot of work. Your customer calling you at 8, 10 o'clock at night. You're checking in, and then following up with them. So I know what it take, and that's why I say after that you could hire another service advisor, or you could automate it. However you want to do it, you can make it better. You know, I like to have a service advisor. I just think it's personal, and you always have somebody in training. We have 6 people, and not all of them meet that goal of 750,000, but they will. We're working on it with all of them, but we got 3 that does it easily. Over a million. Yeah. So then you just have to have everything ready for them. But that's when you should hire somebody, because you don't need to be picking up the phone. You're more powerful. Like working on the business, and instead of the picking up the phone call, worrying about what you got to do with the customer. Let the service advisor and salespeople worry about it, and you worry about what you're gonna do next to your business. Think
Mhm.
about it. You could stand outside your business and it's another different perception, and watch your business. You'd be like, oh shit, like it didn't need me. Like, you know what? We could extend it. We could add on. We could do more cars. Let's add on this next building, or maybe have another location if that's what you want, or maybe go out and go get a dealership, or or start working with the B&B body shops, other shops around the area that need the services, and you could think of way to bring extra business to the shop, But
Mhm. What do you recommend for the guys doing $200,000 to $300,000 to get to that 750 mark? Is it really just about adding more services?
no, I mean they don't need to. I mean, just want it depend on the service, Um, Washing cars not gonna take you there. I mean, if unless you have like a operation like us, like where it is a car wash with 14 guys, but I you they just gonna have to. It's all mindset shift, and they're gonna figure it out. Some people later, some people just don't want to. Some people want to stay like that size, but everybody that I talk to and I ask them, "Do you want to make more money?" They all say yes. I never, not one person said no. So if you're saying yes, yeah, you might say no to having another location, but if you're saying yes, you got to do something about it, and you got to shift your mindset of how you're thinking. You got to think differently of what you think. Because if you think the same with the same information, you're going to do the same thing. So, you need to go out there and visit other shop, talk to other business owner, and I promise you, once you see it, you'll be like, "Oh shit, I could do this. I could bring this back here." I wouldn't say all the services. You do want that. You do eventually want that, but I seen window tint shop that only do window tint that does, millions, like like over $4 or $5 million a year. Just with a couple of shop or one shop. Um, there's a tent shop in Florida that does that. That's just window tint. So because they're focused on their craft. So, but you do want the other services. But if you're really good and you're focused on the services you got, you can do that kind of money. I know PPF shop that does like over $5 million just doing PPF. But they created a good relationship with other company, so they're able to do that. But yeah,
So it sounds like when you partnered up, um, that really helped take your business to the next level. Is there anything else looking back that you feel like you can attribute to the success of AFS?
I so one thing that I did, I mean, yeah, the partnership is amazing. I went out and visited a bunch of shop because I was training, and that was my experience to seeing like how everybody else operate and seeing how they operate and talking to them, being open minded, asking shop owner, and one of the shop I saw was Ryan Townsley. You ever heard of Protective Film Solution?
No.
They're like the biggest PPF shop. So Ryan Townsley, he got 55,000 square feet in Orange County. And when I visited his shop, he just changed my whole mind because this guy was a one man team and he was on the floor, doing PPF and everything, working. And then it kind of changed him when he met Jay Leno. So he do all Jay Leno car, and just seeing him. And I went to his office, and all he does is just work on the business. I see him. He's always working on the Excel sheet and doing stuff like that. And he helped me a lot with my business. And any advice I need to ask him, I ask him like, you need to visit other shop and make friends with everybody, and and hopefully you could call them for advice because you're gonna need them. You're gonna run into something. But if you're just stuck in your own little shop and not seeing what it could be, you're gonna be what you just see. It's kind of hard to say, hey man, you know what? I want to be able to do tint in 30 minutes, any car, and not seeing a shop without seeing a shop that does it. Because you go to tennis, you go to Ray's shop that's in New Jersey. You go to a bunch of shop. I mean, even in Texas, David Chuckman shop, like them guys tint cars, like even so, and you're seeing like how can you ever tint car in 30 minutes if you never seen an operation like that? Are you just gonna create something out of thin air? That's what I did, and when I did it, it's it took me a long time. I had to learn, but these guys already done it. That's I always say you can't skip any step, but you can speed up the step. So don't skip any step, but speed up the step. And what I mean by speeding up the step, waking up early, go take some training, go visit another shop, educate yourself, go visit other business owners. Those are how you're gonna accelerate those steps. But you don't skip them, but you speed them up, and that's how you're gonna have to do it. And that's what helped me because once I started seeing this other shop, trust me, once you start going around the United States or world, whatever, and look at these shops, you're gonna come back with a different mindset. You're gonna be like, oh shit, I could open like another shop. I could make this shop badass. Oh, you know what? We could make this shop attractive. We could put like a little picture room and for our Instagram it'll look a lot better because I've seen shops that shouldn't be taking pictures of their shop because they got a bunch of trash in the back of the picture, stuff like that, and they just have to see it. They just have to go see other shops, and that's like the main thing. And people always come to my shop, but there's shops around the United States, and I went to Tint Pro, Highland, Arizona. You ever heard of Highland Detailing in Arizona? He built him a shop, really really nice. Tint Pro in Minnesota, Tint in Orlando, Tampa. I went to Chloe at SoCal Detailing. I went to Diamond, Ori with Diamond in California. They have like 3 shops. Joe with Art Shine. Like I visit all these shops, and it's crazy. And lucky I'm welcome in all the shops, and they're welcome to take me into their private space and help me because I'm always asking questions. And if they ask me for help, I help them. But I even the shop that I go to and we're kind of like advanced, more advanced than that shop and the way we operate and everything. I never go into the shop thinking like that. I go in there and there's something you're gonna learn from somebody. Even if you think you got it better than them, even if your shop look better than them, there's something you're gonna learn with everybody in there. And and the way I say that is because the demographic is different, the climate is different. They might operate differently because it rain a lot. It might snow a lot. It might rain. They might operate differently, like in Northern Cal, where everybody's like super super rich. So they might be operating their business differently, and you get to see how they operate. And there's stuff that you could take from every shop, and then just imagine you take like all the most powerful stuff from every shop and then you put it inside your shop. What do you think your shop gonna be? It's gonna be like a powerful shop, you know.
How important is marketing and ads, if at all, for your business?
So you have to market, but you have to market after you make 40,000. You can't market before that. You can, but it's just the budget is not enough because I think you got to spend like at least 4,000. From my experience, I'm not a marketing person, but I know enough of it because we spend $15,000 a month. And we know which one is working and which one is not. If it's not working, then we turn it off and do what we got to do. My marketing is, I think I could use almost any marketing company and be successful. It's because of the foundation that we have built. And if you go to our Instagram and our YouTube and everything else, we made all these educational videos and stuff to educate the client. We do all that stuff. We show up at car show. We have Tesla meet. We do everything in the background that when we market, it's successful. You know, it's going to be really really successful on how we do it because once you market, you're going to get leads. I mean, if the guy is good, he's going to give you leads, and you're going to need to know how to close them. And all our educational video that we make and people don't see it. They think we're making all these education video and they only get like 100 likes. It had nothing to do with the 100 likes on the YouTube or Instagram. We needed the post and we needed that embedded code. And when we take that embedded code, we put it into our proposal. So every proposal that we send out have to have a video educating. If it's a C8, we'll have a C8 video. If it's a Tesla, we'll have a C8 a Tesla video. If it's a Supra, we'll have a Supra video. Cybertruck, we have a Cybertruck. Porsche, we have a Porsche. We made all these educational videos specifically on cars. So when that Porsche come in, we got one for window tint, we got one for ceramic coating, we got one for PPF. Same thing with C8, we got one. We made like probably 20 different video, like ceramic coating versus paint protection film track pack on that C8 because it's a mid-engine car. Why it's important to get that car. I mean to PPF that car, the window tint, the ceramic tint, but we made it specifically on that car. So just imagine you bring in a C8 and and uh, and on your proposal you send them a picture or a video of another car. They don't want to see that shit, but look at the powerful of you sending another C8 and be like, this is what we did with that client car at your shop, showing it how it got work on. We did the paint protection film track pack. So we do all that, and it helped all the marketing. It helped us close. That's why our closure rate with the three guys, our top three sales service advisor are at 40%, and the other one is a little over 20. And that's what make us like really successful on that. So you have to have a plan. You can't go rely on a marketing company to go bring you marketing, but you need to have a budget on that because you need to create this little circle. And I'm gonna tell you the circle that's really important. You need your marketing to feed your sales to feed your installation. And guess what happened when something in the middle, when one of those parts are interrupted? If the installer are not getting jobs, are not getting jobs, if the installer are not getting jobs, then they're gonna bitch at the salesperson. And then if if the salespeople are not getting leads, they're gonna deal with the marketing. So it keep on going around. It's just a it's just a circle of life. I could go sit on the beach for 3 months and don't have to worry about it because they're holding each other accountable. You get what I'm saying? So if you don't have marketing, then who are you gonna blame? Everybody's gonna go in a circle and they're gonna be like, call the marketing team. They need to up the marketing, or they need to turn that off or something. You know,
Mhm.
and
Do you do both Google and Meta?
yeah, we do all. So on Meta, you're allowed to put video, and that's what we like about it. On Meta, everybody say you don't get that much lead on Facebook. You get a bunch of leads, but they're just trash. But then it wasn't about that because when you advertise, again, I'm not a marketing expert, but I know this. When you start marketing, you want to do everything, and it's not that. It's customers just start seeing stuff. Like when they do their research, they'll start seeing it. I promise you. For some reason, this is so true. Somebody buy a BMW and they want paint protection film. I don't know what it is, but they start like looking stuff up. My ad will keep on showing on the video when they're on Facebook. My ad will show up when they're on IG. My ad, and then all of a sudden, same thing with Google. When they're looking stuff up, my ad will show up. It just keep on going, and it keep it like relevant. Like we're somebody there be like, man, AFS, 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 and do that make sense? You have to do all three. You can't say this don't work and you don't do this because everything feed each other. It's all like connected, even though you don't think it's connected because the guys are everywhere. Like it's not like you know, it's not like Google and Yahoo, or I mean Google and whatever other search engines. It's not like that. These guys are everywhere. They're on IG, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube. So we're on YouTube too. Um, I think YouTube is the most powerful. I think it's more powerful than Google. It is because once you start putting that video up and you do your SEO, if you're in Houston and you look up best paint protection film, and I don't have to pay for this, it show up. YouTube just show up as a as whatever it is just show up with a video, like, and then you'd be like, best paint protection, or I mean PPF for my car, or whatever you're gonna do, clear bar for my car. You Google that, and then YouTube come up with a video, and then they want to watch the video because everybody is doing the search engine, and I'm doing it too. That when you're searching for a clear bar for my car, all this is a little word. Everybody's saying the same thing. They're saying best paint protection film and used in best paint. They're saying the same thing, but once you have all that, the customer, you're legit to the customer. Like they look at it like, damn, this dude is on IG, on Facebook, YouTube, Google. You got to do all of them, and that's why you got to have a budget. But Facebook don't cost that much. It only costs us like to do the Facebook. It costs, and I think this is a lot of money spent because we're always showing up. I think we're spending like $1,300-$1,500 a month. It's not much, you know.
But if you're retargeting and you're using a good audience, then I'm sure that that's pretty effective.
Yeah, we try to make all our video where they know this is a high value service, because that's one thing that people fail at when they make the window tint advertising from when they market it. They'll be like, "Hey, we do window tint, and it costs this much." They start putting the price out there. We start educating the customer. We put a nice car in there. When the customer see the video, they see us educating. They know that our window tint is not $100. Like we had to make sure, because excuse me, once you start advertising window tint, this is the part. Advertising window tint will 500% work. Because remember what I told you about the mall? Everybody know what window tint is. So they're going to call, but you're going to get all these bullshit calls. How much for tint? $100. Oh, that's too much. You're going to get all that. That's why you have to put something out there for window tint to let them know that you're not that $100 window tint, and you got to know how to communicate that. So it's very important, and we did a really good job at it. That's something I had to figure out. So it wasn't like Mike know all this. Like, we made the mistakes. Like, we're like, fuck this, man. All the phone calls, we're getting like over 100 phone calls a day, but they're all asking for $100 tint. So now we're like, we got to change it up and let, make sure we let the client know that the window tint is not $100, and we did a really good job with the video and everything else. And you have to with window tint, because you could throw that money away really quick, because it'll work. People press that button all day. All day. The guy that just bought a 15-year-old Camry gonna push that button, But after, when he see that, he's like, "Oh no, I'm not calling that company. I think they're gonna be too expensive, And that's what we want. We want them to know that, because that guy with that BMW that been doing his research, that graduated from college, got a $200,000 job salary that year. He want that high quality stuff that he's gonna put in his car, and he's gonna search for it.
What does growth look like for you at this point? Like, what does your focus and day to day look like?
So my goal is to scale and not grow. We already did the growing part. And the difference between scaling and growing, growing is when you grow your business, your expense grow too. And it just, you kind of like don't make that much, don't make that much money because you're growing. You're trying to grow to a certain level where it's level up, and then you start making money. We try to scale. So scaling is, when you scale your business, you're actually growing, but the expense don't come with it. You're still using the same resource. So when we built our Cypress location, we took $100,000 from one location, another $100,000 from another location. It was the cash flow. The cash flow started turning into savings because we never touch it, and then we just let the company borrow the money. We never had to like touch none of our personal savings. Till this day, we haven't touched it, and we got money back. Like it was very profitable. So that's what we look for. I'm done with the fucking growing part, man. Like, I've been growing this business for so long time ago, and we just never saw no money. Then finally, man, the money just come back. So you gotta scale, and people have to know that they like. you have to do your research on that. Like, how can you scale your business and not grow it? But you have to grow your business before you scale it. Just know that. Remember, there's level to this. So it have to grow. It have to grow to. You got to keep on growing. If you want to grow it, if you're at like 400,000 or 500,000, you want to get to 1 million. Just know you're not gonna make no money during that time because you're building a team. You're gonna have to do that kind of service. You gotta add more. You got to add more teammate or structure or sales team, something. You got to do something, inventory or something. But there's going to be a part where, and it's that $1 million mark. And and after that, you're able to scale. But I've seen people not being able to scale. They end up growing and then they lose because they're spending money, they're spending money. Like, you have to scale your business. You have to reuse the resource that you've been building all these years that you collected, people, like just people, process, like everything that you have to use that in order to scale. You can't
Mm-hmm.
just like keep on paying and pain. But remember, like I said before, you have to grow before you scale. So if you're still in the growing phase, then just know that everything's gonna be okay. You're just gonna spend some money to that point where I could sustain being at this much and still scale my business more and not spend any more money. Because the last thing I want to do right now is take out money from my own personal pocket. I want the business to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can you speak to maybe like some of the things you mean by scaling, like uh, practical things that examples that you could give? Like what would be an example of a scaling?
so when we scale that company, we we have a cash flow for each location, and each of the cash flow is different. It could be 100, 150, and then sometimes we always save that. It just become a saving. And then we take that money and then it's used to build another location. It wasn't going out to the bank to go borrow money. It wasn't going out to get a partner. It wasn't going out to get an investor. It was that. And then between those times that we did that, we bought everything that we needed. Like, we bought two 4-post lift from SEMA, like a year before we like more than a year, like a year and a half before we even opened that location, knowing that we're gonna do it. You get what I'm saying? So we already have everything. So that location didn't cost much. We were already planning for it little by little and scaling on it. And then what we did during that 3 to 6 months, we start training the new guys for that location. I mean, we how do I say? We learned a lesson a long time ago that the new guys are always gonna stay at the older location. So we train them at our location, and then we let our best guy go to the new location. Every time we open a location and we sent our new guys over there because it's a new team, everything just crashed.
Mm-hmm.
We always have problems. So we send out our best guy, and the reason why we send out our best guy there is because we're gonna have less issue, less problem, and then the new guys always stay like where I'm at or where some of the other guys are at. With some of them, because that location is already like, running smoothly, and I need that other location to run smoothly. So we start doing all that stuff instead of, having a location, not planning for it, and then all of a sudden start trying to hire somebody to come, to come. To come work and stuff like that, and it just costs you money. Just you just have to plan for it. You just have to scale.
Mm-hmm.
Scaling is like the percentage of everything that is costing you don't go up. Like, if, just say my film cost is at 14%, it don't go more than 14% because I got another location. You know, the labor don't cost more, nothing, just cost more. The percentage stay the same, and you're gonna be good. Usually, when you start growing, everything just start costing you more because you just start hiring. You just start hiring people and not making that money yet. And we already did it because we kind of knew when we had that location, we had our sales team at our other location that handle all the sales call that can handle it until we could afford to that location can afford to pay for somebody that can handle, because it make that kind of money, that can handle to be there. Same thing with our PPF and window tint installer. We did train only one, so we trained a new window tint, a new paint protection film, just in case. But we sent out guys to that location instead of hiring guys. Like I had my other guys go to that location to go do some work because they got slammed or something like that, instead of hiring a new group of people. Because the last thing you want to do is just start hiring and then you're just upside down. Because you got to pay them. You got no work, you still got to pay them, you know?
Well, I know it's been over an hour and a half, so I think we're gonna probably call it there. I could probably talk to you
Okay.
all day, but thank you, Mike,
Hey, thank you.
for sharing so
Hey,
much,
Josh.
man,
Yeah,
and for
yeah, yeah.
being so open. And yeah, I appreciate you being generous with your time too.
Okay.
Where can people go, man, if they want to know more about you or if they're interested in training? I know you do a lot of that stuff.
My I'm like very, very active on Instagram. It's just Mike Norng, and that's my username. I'm always announcing new product, new idea, but I'm always making videos on educating guys how to operate their business. I don't take on too many consultant calls no more. I'm real picky on it, and the reason why is because every time I tell somebody to do something, and this is the part that I feel like you know like like I'm at fault, but that they didn't do it, because I'm telling them that this is their plan of action if they want to go, and most people just don't take that plan of action, and that's why I kind of like stopped doing consulting calls. So I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go out and get free game on Instagram. I'm gonna show you what you need to do and everything else, and it's free. Like I don't need the consulting call. It was something, and it depends. Some people will call me and I will consult with them, but I try not to do it anymore. But yeah, it's Mike Norng at Instagram is where I'm at all the time. I live there. Yeah,
I love your content on there. It's
yeah,
good stuff.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, thank you.
well, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks again for coming on, Mike. And let's do it again at some point, man. I'd love
yeah.
to have you back on.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye bye.
See ya.